The moment the doctor rushed into the waiting room, everything inside me froze. He didn't walk, he ran. His pale face, wide eyes, trembling hands, told the story before he even opened his mouth. "Mrs. Hale," he said, voice cracking. "Your daughter is fighting for her life. We're taking her into emergency surgery now." For a second, the world disappeared. The hospital walls blurred. The floor tilted. The distant sounds of monitors and footsteps vanished under the weight of those words. My knees nearly gave out. My daughter, my Lily, my only child, was drowning in her own blood from a complication that came out of nowhere. One minute she was texting me about the stomach pain she thought was just stress. The next minute, she was being rushed into an operating room with doctors fighting to keep her alive. I pressed my hand against my chest, trying to breathe through the agony clawing its way up my throat. "How bad is it?" I whispered. "We're doing everything we can," the doctor said softly. "But it's critical. Critical." I felt the words settle on my shoulders like a weight designed to crush me. My daughter might not survive. And all I could think was, where is her husband? Where is Jason? He should have been here. He should have been holding her hand when she was wheeled away. He should have been the one asking questions, trembling with fear, pacing the hallway, praying she survived. But he wasn't. He wasn't anywhere. White medium star, no answer, no excuse. And oh husband, I grabbed my phone and called him immediately. Ring, ring, ring. No answer. I tried again, and again, and again. Straight to voicemail. I sent texts. "Lily is in the hospital. Answer me. It's an emergency. Where are you? She needs you." Delivered. Unread. My heart pounded harder with every unanswered call. Minutes passed. Then an hour. Still nothing. I paced the waiting room, clutching my phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. Every time the door opened, I prayed it was him. Every time a man walked by, my head snapped up. But he didn't come. He didn't call. He didn't text. I kept thinking, maybe he lost his phone. Maybe his battery died. Maybe he is driving here and can't answer. Because the alternative was impossible to accept. He didn't care. And then my phone buzzed. White medium star, a notification I will never forget. I snatched it up instantly. My heart believing, hoping, begging that it was Jason finally calling me back. But it wasn't him. It was a notification from social media. A video. A live video. The moment the thumbnail loaded, my heart stopped cold. There he was. Jason, my daughter's husband, laughing, smiling, drinking, dancing on a yacht. The music blasted so loudly through my speakers that a nurse turned to look at me. Champagne sprayed into the air. People cheered. Women in bikinis hung off his arms like ornaments. He posed with them, grabbing their waists, smirking like a man without a single responsibility in the world. While his wife, my daughter, was lying on an operating table surrounded by doctors fighting to keep her alive, he was celebrating, partying, like nothing mattered, like she didn't matter. My stomach twisted into not so violent it felt like someone was ripping them apart. Couldn't breathe. My hands shook as I watched the video. He toasted to freedom. He shouted, "Best night ever." He sang off key, laughed too loudly, and flaunted women who weren't his wife. And the worst part? He never once checked his phone. He never once paused the music. He never once asked about Lily. Because he didn't care. Not enough. Maybe not at all. White medium star, the moment everything changed, I lowered my phone slowly. My chest tightening with a coldness I had never felt before. Something inside me broke. Cracked open. Shattered completely. But in its place, something else was born. Something stronger. Sharper. Colder. A fire. Not the kind that destroys buildings, the kind that destroys illusions. The kind that burns truth into your bones. The kind that changes a person forever. I looked at the glowing live icon in the corner of the screen and felt ice spread through my bloodstream. My daughter was dying, and her husband was dancing. He didn't even know. He didn't even care to know. I thought of Lily's voice earlier that day. "Mom." He said he'd be busy tonight. Busy. That was the word she used. Busy. She had no idea that busy meant getting drunk on a yacht with women he shouldn't even be speaking to, much less touching. I stared at the phone screen, feeling a rage so steady it didn't shake. A rage that felt calculated, focused, almost surgical. If she survives, I whispered to myself, I will show her exactly who he is. And then softer. And if she doesn't, I swallowed hard. He will still answer to me, because whether my daughter lived or died, Jason would face consequences. Not out of vengeance, not out of hatred, but out of justice. No husband deserves celebration while his wife fights for her life. No man gets to play carefree while a woman he vowed to protect bleeds alone. No one gets away with abandoning my child. Not while I'm still breathing. As I sat alone in that cold, fluorescent waiting room, the clock ticking loudly above my head, memories of the last 2 years played through my mind like an ugly, unwanted movie I couldn't stop. Jason hadn't always been like this. At least that's what we thought. Or maybe he had always been like this and we just didn't see it. Maybe he never changed. Maybe he simply revealed himself slowly over time, shedding the charming mask piece by piece. The first time Lily brought him home for dinner, he walked in with a confidence that bordered on arrogance. That salesman's smile, that styled hair, that loud, booming laugh meant to fill a room and dominate it. He carried himself like a man who believed he deserved everything he touched. Money, attention, admiration, and my daughter. But Lily saw something different. She saw adventure, excitement, a boldness she thought she lacked. A man who made her feel chosen. He spoiled her endlessly in the beginning. Dates at restaurants she'd only dreamed about. Flowers for no reason. Late-night calls filled with compliments that made her blush. Vacations he insisted on paying for, even though his work was always vague. He told her she was the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen. That she made him want to be a better man. That he couldn't imagine a future without her. And she believed him. Of course she did. Because when someone showers you with affection, you think it's love. You don't expect it's bait. White medium star The Shift. The moment it all changed, it wasn't immediate. It wasn't obvious. It was gradual. A slow rot beneath a beautiful surface. Right after the wedding, the compliments became fewer. Then hesitant. Then conditional. That dress isn't really flattering on you. You should try harder with your makeup. No wonder people don't take you seriously. I still remember the night I found Lily crying in the bathroom at a family dinner. She wiped her face quickly when I walked in, trying to fake a smile. What happened, sweetheart? She looked down at her hands. He said I embarrass him sometimes. My heart cracked a little, but she defended him immediately. He's just tired. Work is stressful. It's not his fault. That was the beginning of the excuses. The start of her shrinking. White medium star control in disguise. He didn't scream. He didn't insult her to her face. He didn't lift a hand. No, Jason was too smart for that. Too calculated. Too image-conscious. His weapon wasn't violence. It was neglect. Silence. Absence. He would disappear for days with excuses so flimsy you could see right through them. Work trip. Business meeting. Helping a friend. But his phone would be off. His location turned off. His affection turned off. And every time Lily confronted him, he didn't explode. He dismissed. You're being dramatic. Stop overthinking. You always assume the worst. Why are you trying to start a fight? He twisted her emotions until she doubted her own reality. He made her believe she was the unstable one. He made her feel guilty for needing basic respect. He made her apologize for problems he created. I once told her gently, "Sweetheart, love doesn't feel like loneliness." She forced a smile through glossy eyes. "Mom, he's just stressed. He'll change. He promised me he'll change." But he didn't change. He got better at pretending. Better at hiding who he truly was. Better at gaslighting her until she believed her pain was her fault. He knew exactly what he was doing. And Lily, optimistic, hopeful, forgiving Lily, didn't want to admit she married the wrong man. Not to me. Not to herself. Not to anyone. She held onto the fantasy of who he used to pretend to be. Even as he slowly drained the joy from her eyes. White medium star, the phone call that confirmed everything 2 months before the hospital. Lily called me sobbing. Mom, I feel like I don't matter to him. Her voice cracked, broken in a way I had never heard. He leaves for hours without telling me where he's going. He turns off his phone. He comes home smelling like cologne that isn't mine. I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. What did he say when you asked him about it? She sniffed. He laughed. He said I was acting paranoid. He told me no man wants a clingy wife and that I need to get it together. That was the night I knew that the marriage wasn't a partnership. It was a prison. But Lily still defended him. He wasn't always like this, Mom. He used to love me so much. I just want him to love me like that again. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake her. I wanted to protect her from the pain she didn't deserve. But instead, I held her close and let her cry. Because sometimes, the worst prison is the one someone builds inside your heart. A prison made of hope. White medium star, and now, the truth was right in front of me as I sat in that hospital waiting room, staring at the surgery doors that held my daughter's life. I finally understood the full picture. Jason didn't care. Not about her. Not about their marriage. Not about her suffering. While she whispered through tears, I hope he comes home soon. He was out chasing attention from anyone who would give it. While she begged for his affection, he was drowning in alcohol and ego. While she fought for their marriage, he fought for nothing but pleasure. And now, while she lay on a cold metal table, surgeons working to save her from a life-threatening complication, Jason was on a yacht laughing, drinking, touching strangers, smiling like a man without responsibility, living a double life she didn't even know existed. And the truth hit me with brutal clarity. My daughter hadn't failed her marriage. Her husband had failed her. And now that I knew the real Jason, now that the mask had fallen completely, I knew exactly what needed to happen next. For the first time in years, Lily would finally see the truth. And I would make sure she never returned to the man who abandoned her when she needed him most. Hours passed. Not minutes. Not moments. Hours that felt like earthquakes inside my chest. Hours where every breath felt like a fight. Hours where the sound of a single footstep in the hallway made my heart lurch in terror. I sat frozen in the cold, stiff hospital chair, staring at the double doors to the operating room as if I could will them open with the sheer force of a mother's desperation. The clock above me ticked louder than humanly possible. 2:10 a.m., 2:47 a.m., 3:02 a.m. Every minute felt like an eternity. And then, at exactly 3:14 a.m., the doors finally swung open. The surgeon stepped out. His mask hung around his neck. His shoulders slumped in exhaustion. His face held a strange mixture of relief and gravity. I jumped to my feet. Please, I pleaded. Please tell me she's okay. He gave a slow, gentle nod. She made it, he said softly. It was close, very close, but she pulled through. My knees nearly buckled beneath me. A sob broke out of my chest before I could stop it. My hands covered my face as tears streamed down. My daughter, my beautiful Lily, was alive. Alive. The greatest blessing a mother could receive. But then, the doctor hesitated. His expression changed subtly. Not frightening, but serious. Heavy. Deliberate. There's something else, he said. May I speak to you privately? My heart dropped so hard I felt physically weak. We walked into a small consultation room. The lights hummed softly, casting sterile shadows on the white walls. He closed the door gently, then turned to me with a solemn expression. Mrs. Hale, this is important. I gripped the edge of the table. I'm listening. He exhaled slowly. Your daughter's condition worsened because she delayed coming to the hospital. She waited far too long. The internal bleeding became critical. My breath caught. Why would she wait? I whispered. She should have come the moment she felt pain. The doctor nodded sadly. She told the nurses she was waiting for her husband, but he was unreachable for hours. My stomach twisted. Unreachable. Of course he was unreachable. He was too busy drinking and dancing on a yacht. laughing while she was bleeding internally. My blood turned cold, but the doctor wasn't finished. "There's more," he said, lowering his voice. Before she went unconscious, she said she didn't want to bother him. She said he hates when she interrupts his important outings. Important outings. The phrase dripped with irony so bitter it tasted like poison. My daughter, my sweet, gentle Lily, almost died because she didn't want to inconvenience a husband who cared more about champagne and strangers on a yacht than her life. I closed my eyes tightly. Pain ripped through me not just as a mother, but as a human being who couldn't comprehend this level of cruelty. The surgeon placed a hand on my shoulder. "She's stable now. She will physically recover. But emotionally, she will need support." He had no idea how right he was, because physical wounds heal. But emotional wounds, the kind created by betrayal, neglect, and fear, those burrow deep. And Lily had been bleeding emotionally long before tonight. White medium star, the nurse's whisper that changed everything just as the doctor stepped out. A nurse quietly approached me. She looked nervous, as if she was unsure whether she should speak. "Mrs. Hale," she whispered. "Yes, there's something you should know. Something your daughter said just before she passed out." I nodded, bracing myself. She whispered, "Please don't tell Jason. He'll be mad." The air left my lungs. My jaw locked so tightly I could feel my teeth grind. My daughter thought her own husband would be mad. Because she was fighting for her life? Mad? Not worried. Not scared. Not rushing to her side. Mad. As if she was an inconvenience. As if her pain was an annoyance. As if her potential death was something she might get scolded for. A hot, molten anger surged inside me. Not chaotic, not reckless, but controlled, focused, purposeful. The kind of anger a mother feels when she realizes her child has been living in fear disguised as marriage. I thanked the nurse with a nod. Then I sat down on a bench outside the ICU doors and let reality wash over me. My daughter didn't trust her husband with her emergency. She didn't trust him with her pain. She didn't trust him with her life. She feared his reaction more than death. That was the moment my heartbreak hardened into resolve. Jason wasn't just selfish. He wasn't just irresponsible. He wasn't just immature. He was dangerous. Dangerous to her mental health. Dangerous to her confidence. Dangerous to her sense of safety. Dangerous to her survival. He had stripped her down emotionally until she believed her own suffering was a burden to him. And I would not. I refused to let him hurt her again. White medium star, there are two types of mothers in this world. There are mothers who hope for the best. And there are mothers who prepare for war when their children are in danger. Tonight, I became the second kind. I wasn't just grieving. I wasn't just relieved. I wasn't just angry. I was activated. A mother's instinct is louder than any siren, sharper than any knife, stronger than any fear. And now that I knew the truth, now that I understood the depth of Jason's neglect, there was no universe in which I would let him near Lily again. Not when she woke up. Not the next day. Not ever. Jason might think he could charm his way back. He might think he could lie his way out. He might think he could guilt her into forgiveness. But he was about to learn a painful, unforgettable lesson. A mother's love is stronger than any husband's ego. And when you hurt her child, you answer to her. What I did next would change everything. For Lily. For Jason. For their marriage. And for the rest of their lives. At 9:27 a.m., the automatic doors to the hospital slid open, and Jason finally walked in. Not rushed. Not panicked. Not frantic with worry like any decent husband would be. No. He walked in like he'd just woken up from a good night's sleep after a party, which, in his case, wasn't far from the truth. He wore sunglasses indoors, the universal trademark of someone hiding a hangover. The smell of stale alcohol drifted off him like heat from asphalt. And worst of all, he had a smile on his face. A big one. Confident one. A careless, smug one. As if nothing horrible had happened in the last 12 hours. He didn't ask a nurse. He didn't ask where to check in. He didn't even look worried. He just strolled up to me and said, "Where's my wife?" Casually, like he was asking for directions to the vending machine. I stared at him, not with sadness, not with fear, with clarity, with truth, with all the anger I had been holding back since the moment I saw him dancing on that yacht while my daughter bled internally. I stood up slowly. "Do you know where your wife has been for the last 12 hours? I asked. He shrugged. Yeah. She told me she wasn't feeling great." His voice was dismissive, flat, irritated, even like this whole situation was mildly annoying to him. "Not feeling great?" I repeated softly. He didn't notice the warning in my tone. He didn't see the storm behind my eyes. He was too busy adjusting his sunglasses and smoothing down his shirt, trying to look composed. That's when I pulled out my phone. His confidence wavered. Just a ripple. But I saw it. I held the screen toward him. Then I pressed play. The yacht video. The music. The champagne. The women draped over him. The dancing. The laughing. The man he truly was laid bare in a single clip. His smile cracked. Not fully, but enough. He stepped back slightly, as if the truth itself had weight. His jaw tightened. His eyes darted left, then right, like a cornered animal searching for an escape. This isn't what it looks like," he stammered. I cut him off. My voice was low, controlled, sharp as glass. "She almost died," I said, "while you were out drinking with other women." He flinched. "Good." I continued before he could even think of lying again. "She waited for you, Jason. She was bleeding internally. She delayed coming here because you were busy. Do you know what the doctor said? Your wife didn't want to call you because she didn't want you to be mad." He blinked rapidly. Wait. I didn't know." "No," I snapped, stepping toward him. "You didn't care." He opened his mouth again, but I held up my hand like a stop sign. "No, you don't get to talk. You don't get to explain. You don't get to lie. Not anymore." His face turned deep red. "I'm her husband," he snarled. "I have a right to see her." The entitlement in his voice made my stomach turn. "You lost that right," I said coldly. "The moment you chose a yacht over her life." Something flickered in his eyes. Fear. Real fear. He tried to push past me, moving toward the ICU hallway. But he made a big mistake. He underestimated a mother. I stepped in front of him with a force he didn't expect. I wasn't tall. I wasn't threatening. I wasn't physically strong. But I had something he didn't. Authority, truth, purpose. And he felt it. "Touch that door," I warned. "And I will drag the police here myself." He paused. Not because he respected me, but because he saw something in my expression that told him I wasn't bluffing. That I wasn't scared of him. That I wasn't intimidated by him. That he no longer had control over anything in this building, or in Lily's life. For the first time ever, Jason realized he wasn't in control. He tried to steady his voice, but it came out shaky. "You can't keep me from her. She needs me." I laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. "She needed you last night," I said. "And where were you?" His lips trembled. He looked away. Good. Let him feel even a fraction of what she felt every time she cried alone, waiting for him to come home. Let him feel the guilt of every unanswered call, every ignored message. Every night she lay awake wondering why she wasn't enough. But guilt wasn't enough. He needed consequences. Real consequences. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, my voice steady. "You are not going near her. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not ever again." "You can't decide that," he barked. "I already have." He clenched his fists, shaking with frustration. "You can't keep me out forever." I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "Watch me." He froze, because in that moment he finally saw it. I wasn't just a mother. I was a wall, a shield, a force standing between him and the woman he'd hurt for far too long. And that terrified him, as it should. When Lily finally woke up later that afternoon, her eyelids fluttered open like someone slowly returning from the edge of a dark ocean. "Mom," she whispered, so faintly I had to lean in to hear her. "I'm here, sweetheart," I said, brushing her hair gently away from her forehead. She blinked slowly, her eyes hazy with medication and exhaustion. Her gaze drifted around the room until it settled back on me. And then, with a trembling voice, "Where's Jason?" The question hit me like a cold wind. Not because she still wanted him, but because despite everything, despite the fear, despite the emotional scars, a part of her still believed he might come. That maybe this time he would show up. But I didn't lie. I didn't sugarcoat. I didn't protect him the way she had for so long. "You were dying," I said softly. "And he was celebrating on a yacht." Lily's breath hitched. Her whole face fell, not with shock, but with recognition. As if a puzzle she had been avoiding suddenly formed one complete, devastating picture. She knew. Deep down, she had always known. Her chin quivered as tears welled up and spilled down her cheeks. "Mom," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I'm so sorry." That shattered me. I leaned forward and gathered her carefully into my arms. "No, sweetheart. You have nothing to be sorry for," I said firmly. "You loved someone who didn't deserve you. You gave everything to a man who gave you nothing back. That is not your fault." Her shoulders trembled as she cried into my chest. "You survived him, Lily," I whispered. "And now, you get to choose the rest of your life." She slowly pulled back, wiping her tears. Her next words came out shaky, but steady enough to change everything. "Mom, I want a divorce." It was the moment I had prayed for, begged for, waited for. I smiled softly, but with triumph buried underneath. "I already called the lawyer." Her eyes widened. "Mom, what did you do?" I kissed her forehead gently, like I did when she was a little girl, and scraped her knee. "Sweetheart," I whispered, "while you were fighting for your life, I was fighting for your freedom." Her face melted into relief. A relief so deep it was almost painful to witness. It was the look of someone whose chains had finally been broken. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Thank you. Thank you, Mom." White medium star. The aftermath. A mother's war. Jason never saw her again. Not at the hospital. Not at home. Not in court. I made sure of it. The restraining order was approved within 48 hours, expedited by the evidence of his neglect and emotional cruelty. He attempted to fight it, but every lie he tried to tell unraveled the second the judge saw the yacht footage. His face burned red in that courtroom as the truth exposed him piece by piece. But Lily didn't attend. She didn't need to hear his excuses. She didn't need closure from a man who never cared enough to give it. She already had the only closure she would ever need. She survived. And that was enough. Within 6 months, the divorce was finalized. Jason walked away with nothing. No alimony. No access. No second chance. He had gambled with her life and lost everything. White medium star. The rebirth of a daughter. Lily healed slowly at first. Her physical pain faded, faster than the emotional wounds. Nightmares came and went. Doubt whispered in her ear more than once. Was I stupid? Did I waste years? Will I ever trust again? And every time, I held her hand and reminded her, no one is stupid for loving. Some people are just masters at pretending to deserve it. Week by week, I watched my daughter rebuild herself. She cut her hair shorter, a symbolic shedding of the woman she used to be. She started therapy. She went back to her hobbies. She began smiling again. Real smiles, not the brittle ones she wore for Jason. And one day, she said something that made my heart swell. I finally feel like myself again. The girl who once shrank herself for a man was now growing into a woman who knew her worth. White medium star. The man who thought he could break her. As for Jason, he learned a lesson he didn't expect. His ego was bruised. His reputation shattered. His supply of women and attention dried up the moment his true character spilled across social media. He tried messaging her once. A desperate, pathetic attempt to reclaim control. She didn't even open it. Not because she was afraid, but because she no longer cared. He was a chapter, not the story, and he no longer had any power over her life. Ever again. White medium star. A mother's closure. People say a mother's love has limits. They're wrong. A mother's love is a storm, silent when it needs to be, and unstoppable when it must be. Jason underestimated that. He underestimated Lily. He underestimated me. He underestimated the power of a woman pushed too far. He thought he could break my daughter, but she rose stronger. He thought he could control her, but she reclaimed her life. And he thought he could walk away without consequences. But he learned the truth. When a mother fights, she doesn't stop until her child is safe. Not safe for a moment. Not safe for a week. Not safe for a phase. Safe for life. And that is the ending he never saw coming.